Well, hello, lovely humans. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jamie Wolfer. I'm a wedding planner and I teach you how to hack your own wedding. And in this week's video, we are going to talk about how to plan a wedding for $20,000. Now, before any of you go, I could never, that's okay. You don't have to, but this video is for those who do plan on spending that amount on their event, and more power to them. We are not budget shaming here, okay? I've already done a video on a $10,000 wedding. And we have a $5,000 budget and a $15,000 budget in the pipeline as well, so keep your eye out for that over the next few months. But for today, we're focusing on $20,000 because there are a ton of people who still spend that amount of money or more, and they need help too. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. Now, there will be some crossover information or repeated information from the $10,000 wedding video, okay? Like that's just, it's gonna happen. I'm going to be repeating myself in a couple regards. If you want to, you can feel free to, after this video, don't leave, don't go anywhere. Go watch that one for a little bit more of a backstory, but I'm going to try to give this information as if you haven't seen that other one. But if I repeat myself and you notice, that just makes you a good student of my channel. Okay, so for reference for this budget, I'm going to be using the master plan's budget spreadsheet. If you are not a part of the master plan, what are you doing? You gotta get in there. It's $29 a month. You can have it for as little or as long as you want to. And there are spreadsheets and PDFs galore to make wedding planning so much easier for you, because I know there's free product out there. I know there's free downloads. I know there's free budgets, but those don't make a system. It helps to have a guided plan in chronological order throughout your wedding planning to make sure that you are doing everything at the right time and at the right price. So if you are interested in joining the master plan to get access to this budget spreadsheet, 10 out of 10 recommend. I'm gonna go ahead and link it right up here for you. It literally helps anyone at any budget make wedding planning easier. And is that a bold statement? Yes, but I stand by it. Okay, so let's see. I inputted $20,000 as the total budget for this and have the numbers here in front of me on my phone, but we'll throw them up on the screen as well. It's a very number heavy video, so we'll have them on the screen. If you need to take notes, please feel free to do so. And as I'm going through this, I'm gonna tell you what the budget calculator says you should spend, and then also give my personal recommendations, because a spreadsheet with automatic numbers will not always reflect what an actual budget looks like, and sometimes you need the help of a trained wedding professional to help you figure out where you can splurge and where you can cut. Okay, so on this, we have venue at 19%. Why? Because that's just how the math worked out. And that would put it at $3,800. This is like an in-between cost where it's kind of like a little bit less than $5,000, which is where you kind of see a lot of venues at that starting price point. But it's way more than you would do for a backyard event, for a community center event. So you're kind of in that in-between space. So finding one at this price point is gonna be funky, right? It doesn't quite work like that. So you'd either spend less and then DIY and bring everything together, or you'd spend a little bit more and go more all-inclusive. Let's go ahead and break down what that looks like. All-inclusive typically would include rentals such as tables, chairs, and linens, and potentially food, drinks, and maybe even dessert. So while $3,800 doesn't sound like a ton, but like way more than a community center, let's put together some of those other numbers to see what our full cost could be if you went all-inclusive, all right? So we've got $3,800 for the venue. Catering we have set at $3,000 because it's 15% of the budget. Drinks we have at $600, dessert we have at $600, and rentals we have at $1,000. I think the math is $9,000. I was right, $9,000. That, now we're talking like a way more serious chunk of your budget, right? But a whole lot more of the amenities are covered. So that means if you're looking at a venue that offers items like rentals and food and drinks, you have a whole lot more room to play with here. Now, some venues may remove their venue fee and then have their profits through like food and rentals and catering and all that jazz. So that is definitely something to be on the lookout for. So when you're at this $20,000 price point, you can either go DIY and really get a really inexpensive venue, bring it all in yourself. You can really afford to go a little bit nicer with the rentals. You can do something a little bit more fun with the catering. You've got some options here. Or you go all inclusive and just stick to that, right? And there's not a lot of flourish that's happening here, but it's all done for you. I have an entire video on DIY versus all inclusive. I will link it right here. If you are on the fence and you're not quite sure what you want to do, there's some emotional factors, there's some life factors that come into play here that could help you decide, but we're not going to dive into that in this video. Next category is wedding coordinator, and this one is 5%, which brings it to $1,000 for your $20,000 budget. This is very feasible in quite a few areas. Now, you may live in a metropolitan area and you're like, Jamie, I can't find anyone under $1,500. Okay, I hear you, I see you. But if you can find someone who's new enough, usually their price point is lower, and what they lack in experience, they make up for in enthusiasm, and tend to still be a great fit for you. I know a lot of people will say, don't go new, but like everyone's got to start somewhere. Just do your due diligence when you're interviewing potential coordinators to make sure that you find a good fit for you. That's also something that we include in the master plan, is all the questions that you should be asking to find the perfect coordinator for you. Because, you want to find someone who's not going to screw up your day, right? Next up, catering. We touched on this already. 15% is $3,000. As with everything in any budget, there are two things that heavily come into play with this. Your expectations for wedding planning and your big day, and your guest count. The more guests you have, potentially the more expensive it can be. So you either determine your guest count based on your budget, or you make your budget work for your guest count. So if you want to have 300 people at your wedding, you can do that. It's just going to end up costing you more in the way of rentals. You might have to rent out a larger space than someone with 100 people. It could cost you more in catering, or you can get creative with drop catering or a food truck, but that would bring your cost down to $10 per person, which is a lot harder to do on this magnitude. I forget where I read this, but someone called it the Olive Garden rule. Like, right? I don't know if y'all have been to Olive Garden. It's this Italian style restaurant with wheels on the chairs. It's a riot, and endless breadsticks. God bless carbs. But when you go to Olive Garden, you're not expecting like a bougie experience. Like, you're not getting top of the line food. It's going to be good pasta, right? It's going to be decent. It's going to get the job done, but still probably going to cost you anywhere from $15 to maybe $20 per person with your food, with your drink, with the appetizers, with the unlimited amount of bread you're shoveling down your face. And while that's not a huge amount, right? At a restaurant situation like this, you're like, yeah, $15 per person. That's not bad. Translate that into wedding catering, into wedding food. At this price point, $15 per person is not a whole lot to work with. So you're going to want to end up more with like the drop catering, which is where it's prepared off-site by a restaurant. It could be Chick-fil-A. Yeah. It could be, I think Chipotle even does catering like this, where they prepare it at the restaurant and then bring it to you. There are tons of great and really delicious options, but that's going to be more of the avenue that you're looking at here. So if you have 150 people that you're inviting, that gives you about $20 per person for food, and then whatever sort of china, flatware, and glassware that you potentially might want to be serving this food on. That's a great amount. 150 people, $3,000 budget. If you're not going with an all-inclusive venue, it's not going to be all-inclusive catering. It's not going to be that level of service. But it does give you the opportunity to maybe spend $15, $16 per person on food, and then $4 or $5 per person on plates, utensils, and glassware. Now, quick little jaunt into the rental versus disposable plates, utensils, and cups. I'm going to quote some numbers based on like my more lengthy experience in Southern California to kind of give you an idea of what that looked like. But of course, things could be looking different now because of inflation and whatever. Plates, from my understanding, the basest level of renting plates is about 45 cents a plate. Now, if you get the fancy bougie, looks like real plates but are actually plastic, those usually end up being about 45 cents per plate too. So here we don't really have any sort of cost savings when it comes to disposable plastic plates if you go for the nicer version of them. However, the additional fees that you'll see with the rental plates, I don't know why I'm moving my hands like this, but let's keep going with it, are delivery, pickup, other sort of associated fees, whereas with the disposable, you don't have any of those. There is an environmental impact with the disposable ones. I'm aware of that. I'll leave that to you to decide on your own conscience what you want to do with that, but the plates themselves are kind of like even, unless, less delivery fees. Utensils, I don't even remember, but they really, like, renting this kind of stuff, it's really not that expensive. Like anywhere from, I don't know, 25 to 45 cents per fork, per knife. So really, really inexpensive, generally speaking. However, the disposable ones are going to be astronomically cheaper. Sure, the ones that look like real gold or real silver, like the metallic looking ones, they're going to be a little bit more expensive than the clear or the white ones. So you will see some cost savings there. Now, the same situation with glassware versus disposable cups. The disposable cups are going to be much cheaper than the glassware, especially considering you're going to need multiple glasses per person. And I'm not talking 2 per person. I'm talking like 4, maybe 5 per person. So that's a pretty hefty cost. But you don't have to deal with the trash later, but also you'd still have to pay for those delivery fees. This is where research comes in handy and doing some cost comparison, because obviously I can't give you all the answers right now, but if you were to go for drop catering from Chipotle and do disposable plates, knives, forks, and cups, it's going to end up being cheaper than if you tried to pursue a more all-inclusive pursuit. pursue the pursuit. Next category is drinks. This is set at 3%. That's $600. If you are DIYing or BYOBing, did I just? Yep, I did. Your alcohol, that's pretty achievable. I would still recommend that you stick with beer and wine only, if possible, perhaps a signature drink, maybe two, that don't need a lot of mixing or preparation on site. But when you keep your offerings more simple, you can have more fun with the types of wine. I mean, I'm not judging anyone who likes a good old box of Franzia, but maybe we could step it up a little bit and get a nicer bottle of wine. Or get a few selections, as well as the beer. Maybe you can offer 3 or 4 types instead of just 1 or 2 if you were working with a tighter budget. But $600 is still definitely on the tighter end, so you definitely can't do an open bar. You definitely shouldn't be hiring a huge bartending service. You're probably looking at something that's way more expensive than that, unless you borrow from your miscellaneous fund, which we will get to at the end of our budget breakdown. Dessert, $600. This is still going to be on the lower end for a professional dessert service. You could probably get a bomb cake for $600, right? Like, you could really have fun with this if you wanted to serve cake. Most of y'all know how I feel about cake, though. I'm more of a fan of dessert tables. So you can either DIY this, go to Costco, go to Trader Joe's, have fun with it, and get this big old spread, right? $600 is plenty. That goes a really, really long way with something like this. But it does get a little tighter if you want to go the professional avenue. If you want to go with a professional baker or dessert table maker, you are probably looking at more like $700, $800, $900, maybe $1,000. Those can be anywhere from $6 to $10 per person, 12, maybe 15, depending on how bougie you get. So just keep those numbers in your mind, and you can see here again how your guest count will heavily affect this. If you have 100 people at $6 per person, it probably would be a more simple dessert table, but it would still get the job done. Rentals we have at 5%, which brings it to $1,000. Again, if you're going all inclusive and your location already has these, then you can lump this into your venue fee. Like, you can lump this into your venue cost, right? Because then that puts it at $4,800. And that really opens up your window of opportunity to get different venues. If not, rentals tend to generally be $10-ish per person. So we're looking at 100 people if you go the full standard rental rate, barring inflation and or your location, right? Because there's only so much I can do with numbers. I can just kind of guide you in the right direction and hope I'm landing somewhere near what the budget would be in your area. Next up, we have photo and video, both of these at $1,800. These are definitely more tight, for sure. I tend to recommend that most of my clients don't go under $2,000 for photography. And I think you'd be really hard pressed to find videography for under $1,800. Unless you went with something like Lily and Lime, which is a national photography and videography company. And we've had plenty of people work with them and really, really enjoy their services. I'll go ahead and link them right here. I have a code for them. If I can remember what it is, I'll put it on the screen. Last I checked, it was something really obscure, but we asked them to change it. So it'll get you $50 off any package. Doing it on that scale with a national photography studio is a lot easier. But if you want to go with someone local, something more artisanal, I don't even know if I can call photography artisanal, but we're gonna run with it. You might want to consider perhaps ditching the video and adding that onto your photography budget, because then you're looking at $3,600 for photography, which is insane. Like, you can get an amazing photographer with plenty of experience and a second shooter for 8 hours for $3,600. Or you opt for $3,000 and take that extra $600 and plunk it in another category to elevate that a little bit. Florals, $1,800. This is, again, that fine line of like, some florists have a shop minimum of like $2,000. So it may be harder to find something in this category at that price point. This may be where you then plunk in that extra $600 from your videography that you're not using to bring it up to $2,400. I did math live on camera, which is a much more robust budget to work with. If florals are important to you, that might be something that's worth considering. But I will say, my friends over at Poppy, they're breaking the rules, okay? They are absolutely breaking the rules, and I love them for it. They have their shop minimums for their florists, which, by the way, they're building out this nationally in the U.S., where they've taken out the middleman. They have partnered with local florists, so you still get like an actual creator, an actual florist artist person to make your florals at a shop minimum of $1,000. So if you're interested in checking them out, I'm gonna link them up here. It makes that $1,800 a lot more achievable, and they're local to your area. It's awesome. It's like a win-win for everybody. But if you have your heart set on another florist, again, you can pull that from videography and use that here. Music and or DJ for $800. We're so close to making this an achievable number. Now, many of you, especially in our Facebook group, have talked about finding a DJ for less than that. That's amazing. Good on you. Just make sure you thoroughly vet that person that their skill set is up to par, up to snuff. Because a $400 DJ would cause me to pause a little bit about the extent of their history in the field, because most of them are going to be 800, 900, 1,000. I was about to say 1,000. 1,000. Southern California, where most of my experience is, I'm still learning more of the prices out here in Texas, would be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, depending on what you're really going for here. So 800 is possible, but you might want to be willing to eke that up $100 or maybe $200 to get it to a more achievable price point, depending on your area. Stationery, invitations and save the dates. This one, what percentage is it? 3% at $600. Absolutely not. No, ma'am. We are not doing that. We're not spending $600 on invitation. I mean, you can. You have room in your budget to do so. But you could probably bring that down to $200, $250 and still get beautiful invitations. My favorite are the ones over at Basic Invite. The affordability of them is insane, and they have a design for literally every single wedding. The prices start at 99 cents per invitation. If you're sending 80 invitations and then you get envelopes and then stamps, are you kidding? Like less than $2 per invite. That's insane. I might have run out of links, so I'll leave as usual all of the links in the description box as well if you want to check them out at the end of this video. So if you get it down to $250, maybe $300, you then have $300 that you can put towards something else, which is great. It might get you a little bit more wiggle room with your venue, your florals, your catering, your dessert. Apparel, we have at 5%, which brings it to $1,000 of this budget. Now, I know a lot of people in this category tend to spend more than that on apparel. Now, I know a lot of people at this budget tend to spend more than that on apparel. This is where we're potentially borrowing from those other categories, but we need to understand that we might be making sacrifices in order to make that happen. Because there are a lot of wedding dresses that start at $1,000, right? And then you don't have room for alterations, and then what's your partner gonna wear? Just show up in your jams. It's fine. As long as I look good, who cares? No, that's not quite the move that we want to go for. If your partner's wearing a suit, we're looking at probably $250 max for the rental, 200-ish. And if you are choosing to wear a dress, awesome. I would recommend maybe landing on the $500 or $600 price point to still give you enough wiggle room to get your alterations done. I think we have a discount code with Generation Tux. I'm gonna leave a link for that because I'm not supposed to publicly share it with everybody. So if you wanna let me know, I'll link it down below. Okay. As well as an alterations guide to give you a general idea of how much alterations might cost, depending on the style of dress that you're getting, whether it's lace, what the bodice looks like, those sorts of things. We'll have that linked for you down below as well. Just the linkiest video of all time. No, I guarantee you I have one that's more linky. That's not even a word. I am making up words today. Hair and makeup at $200. I think this is achievable. I think you can get professional hair and makeup done on your person for this amount. We're thinking I think I said this last video, generally maybe $75 for face, $75 for hair, leaves enough room for a tip, or you can get someone who's a little bit more expensive, perhaps has a little bit more experience. You got some wiggle room here. And then the last category is miscellaneous. Do not skip this category. This is your precious angel baby, okay? This is the one that's going to save your hiney when you fall in love with a photographer that's $2,800 and you're like, I didn't budget for that. Here it is. There you go. We got a little bit of wiggle room. This is also for the situation where you're like, oh, I didn't anticipate that fee. Most vendors are super clear about their fees up front, but every once in a while you might be like, whoops. It's also for your DIY things, if you're making signs, if you're doing favors, but you guys know how I feel about favors. Or it's for those last minute things where you're like, I thought I wanted to do this on my own, but I don't, and I'm going to pay somebody to do this. Just take my money. Thank you. Thank you. So as tempting as it can be to not have a miscellaneous budget at all and just beef up some of the categories that are really important to you, I do strongly recommend keeping some money of your budget set aside so you can cover all of these, is it incidentals? I don't know. You can cover all these situations if they might pop up, because they typically do. In fact, most of the couples that do set aside a miscellaneous budget use it, and they're grateful that they have it set aside. Whew, that was a doozy, right? Okay, let me know what your budget is in the comments down below. I always love hearing from you guys, and you guys always do such a great job of supporting each other in the comments as well. Let us know your budget. Let me know some of your budgetary concerns. Maybe we can address them in a video coming up. I don't know. I mean, I do have content planned for the rest of the year, which is a little excessive, but We got excited and planned it all out. So maybe we could toss that in there. Or we could do it on Q&A Monday over on Instagram. I'm done talking. Enough of my face. That's all we have for this week's video, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Any of the links or things that I've mentioned will be in the description box below. I know it's a long journey down there, but go check it out. It is filled with resources just for you guys. If you like the video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. And until next week, bye guys!